let's tally up the cost. So the car itself, $89,500. Total mods, $100,001. An absolute insane amount of money. Oh my God. G'day, I'm Brad from our Australia trip, and about 6 months ago, me and my wife Hayley, we turned a blank canvas into what you see behind us here, our dream touring four-wheel drive. There's been a lot that we've learnt along the way, so today we're going to run through the finished product and tally up the costs and our thoughts along the way. Now, before we get into the walk around, the most frequent question we get by far is how much does a build like this cost? So as we do a walk around and talk about the different mods, we'll also tally up the costs along the way with each mod. It's not something that I really wanted to do, and I know we went way over budget, so it's a little bit painful to say this costs out loud, but that's just the reality of the situation. This is literally one of the last V8s to come in the country, so it really was now or never with this build. We'd also like to acknowledge that some of the parts on this build were sponsored, and without the help from some of these companies, a build this caliber just simply wouldn't have been possible for us to afford in the tight time frame that we had to build it. So anyway, without further ado, I can't believe I'm sitting in my dream car. Let's get on with the walk around. All right, so if you can't tell by just looking at this vehicle, this is a 2025 79 Series Land Cruiser. It's a dying breed, handmade in Japan. They're reliable, they're tough. It's got all the things that we're looking for when we're considering towing and touring vehicles. We did run through all the different platforms that we considered in making our choice for our long-term touring rig, and we did make a video just explaining all of that stuff. So if you want to know why we ended up with this platform, you can check that video out. But I've got all the items, all the modifications here on my phone. It's quite a long list, so we'll run through it, talk a bit about the products, and tally up the costs along the way. So starting off, we've got the bull bar. We've got an ARB bull bar. It comes with bash plates. Well, we've optioned the bash plates, we've optioned the side steps and the rails. I really like this bar. I like the way that it's square. These 79 series, the facelift models, are very square, as you can see, and I think this bar just complements it perfectly. It's standard black. This is as it comes from ARB. I sort of thought that the coating would get a little bit powdery in the sun, but mate, it looks like brand new since the day we got it. So all up, the bar, the rails, the bash plates and everything, we're looking at $5,200. That is a lot of money, but there are much more expensive bars on the market. So this is a good all-round option. It you know, includes fog lights and blinkers and parker lights and all that sort of stuff. So moving on, we've got our Nava lights. So these are the Mark III Ultima 215s. They're the biggest in the Ultima range. They're awesome. They've got a little cover. We've got these black smoky covers on them. So if you want to drive at night, we've also got a clear set of covers. This does diffuse the light a little bit, but the black just makes it sort of blend in a little bit more, and I think it looks really cool. These lights are awesome. They are two lights on the front here, brighter than the face of the sun. I don't really find any need for any more lighting. Maybe I'd like a little bit more lighting off the corners of the car when we're sort of trying to find camps at night, but these are awesome for distance and for spread off the side of the road. And they've been great. So those suckers, $950. So we have optioned this bug deflector. That was about 150 bucks. I really didn't want to put this on. I liked the way that the car looked without it, but after our first few stone chips on this front face, it's quite a steep angle, so we just bit the bullet and bought it, and it has deflected a few stones already, so it's doing its job. You'd be surprised how much crap you cop when you're traveling on the road, especially in a car that has, a lot of sharp angles. So yeah, that was 150 bucks. Moving along to here, we've got the Rhino rack, platform rack. I think this is Series 6 or something like that. it's really good, like it's versatile. So we've got the surfboard and the max tracks up there at the moment, but we can sort of adjust it to suit whatever we want to do. When we're touring around the snow, we put our skis and our snowboard up there. It's just nice to have that extra adjustability or extra storage. I really like the way that it looked without the roof rack, but after only owning the car for about a month, we figured that it was quite impractical not having it. So we tacked that on, and yeah, that was $1,500 on special. That is the rack and this backbone system. I won't include the Max Trax holder and the surfboard stuff. That's, you know, all accessories, everyone's different. So let's move on to one of my favorite parts of this build, and that is under the bonnet. It's 2025 and Toyota still aren't putting gas struts on their bonnets. And this bonnet, believe me, weighs a ton. Right, so on the side here, you can also see we've got this beautiful big Safari R-Max snorkel. These move a lot of air, almost twice the amount of air compared to the factory raised air intake, and that tees into our Just Auto's sealed airbox. So the Toyota airboxes, over time, the plastic deforms and it can potentially let dust in. This is like really critical part of your engine. You don't want to be sucking dust into your engine. So we've got this Just Auto's airbox. We've got the Just Auto's fan kit. As I said, this is a 4.5 litre V8, so we have gone for engine tuning. So we've had the Just Auto's multi-mapping package, which gives us 5 tunes, all for different scenarios. Like we've got towing, we've got high idle, we've got immobilizers, we've got power tunes, we've got party tunes and all that sort of stuff. Most of the time we're spending our time cruising around in just the normal mode or the tow mode. But yeah, we've got all these supporting mods like these big spall fans on top of the intercooler to keep the intake temps down, because we are pushing a little bit more power. We're sitting around the 650 Newton meter mark with this car. Yeah, under the bonnet also we have diff breathers. We've got like a red arc isolator just for a second battery, which we've got in the back, which we'll show you in a sec. And also we've got a J-Max upgraded brake booster, which you can see in the back there. That's a part of the J-Max kit, which we'll get into here in a second. So all up, the Just Auto stuff, including the snorkel, $10,100 for a performance upgrade. And I know that's a lot of money, but we cruised around the country for about 2.5 years with no performance upgrades in our old single cab 79. And I just don't know how we did it. In the last few months, we've taken this ute to places that we would have never taken our old rig, just because we have so much more confidence in the power of the vehicle. You know, we know it can pull our van up steep inclines and we're not gonna run out of steam. And in saying that, the efficiency of this engine, even though we're putting out twice the amount of power, we're still getting the same fuel figures as what we did in our old one, which is around 22 to 24 litres per 100. But we've seen towing figures of 19, like if we're just running down the highway and we've got a sweet run, 19 litres per 100, which is pretty good considering we are towing a 3.5 tonne van pretty much 24/7. So the Just Auto's upgrade, if you've got a 70 series and you're looking at, or any Toyota for that matter, if you're looking at doing it, it's definitely a worthwhile investment. Oh, and the diff breathers are $160, so that's a really good investment. It puts breathers on your transfer cases, so it extends your breathers on your transfer case, your gearbox, your diffs, so gets them up nice and high into the engine bay, because usually they're only about that long. So if you drive through a puddle that's, say, this big, potentially get water into your diff, your gearbox and stuff like that. So that's a worthy investment too. So coming down here, we've got our big meats. So on this truck, we've gone from a 33 inch in our old one to a 35 inch Maxxis all-terrain tire. We've been running the Maxxises. They're good. They got a 3-ply sidewall. We haven't really had an issue with these. I'm not opposed to trying other tire brands as long as they've got a 3-ply sidewall, but these things are great because you can get them everywhere. The tires, the 35s, are pretty expensive. So they're $32.50 for 5 tires. So that's what's wrapping the rims. And you can see we've got these beautiful Method race wheels. So these are the MR312 HDs. So it's a heavy duty. These are a load rated rim. They're over 1,650 kilos load rated. They're tested on a 37 inch tire, so that's a lot of rotational mass. You know, they're just tough as nails. And for a vehicle with a big GVM like this, or if you've got an American truck or anything like that, these are a really stylish and functional rim that you can put on your truck. And I just think these 312s just set the truck off so good. They $3,090. So yeah, big bickies for the rim and tyre combo, but I think it's really hard to go past these methods because yeah, they look the part, but they're also super functional. So we love them. One of my favorite things. I did detail a car too the other day, but we've been parked under a paperbark tree. We tried to film this episode a few times, so you will see that the car's a little bit dirty, not as in its premium condition as what I would have liked for this video, but hey, we're just rolling with it. Here we've got the MSA mirrors. So these are slide out towing mirrors. They're good. They got electric adjustment in the glass there. We did have clear views on our old ones, but the powder coating on the clear view mirror, it flaked off twice. We replaced 2 sets of bases and I wasn't about that. So time will tell how good the MSAs go, but so far I'm really happy with them. They've got the inbuilt indicator there and they've also got electric adjustment for the glass. So they've been really nice. They set us back $935 for towing mirrors, which is about on par for a premium pair of towing mirrors. You can see the side rails here. This is really nice. Like you can see a big step, big wide step. The way that this rail and the scrub bar sort of protects the side of the car. So that was all part of the bull bar package. So moving up the back here, we have our mode canopy. So this is a lightweight composite canopy. It only weighs 222 kilos, which is at least half the weight of most other canopies on the market, if not more. So we got it paint matched. McCormack's, they did a lot of the build, probably 85% of the build McCormack's took care of. We paint matched the doors in the French vanilla, which the car comes in, so that looks really nice. All that shade's good. And yeah, we've done a pretty basic setup on the internal of this canopy. So we've got, this is a 130 litre Bushman fridge. 130 litres. As you can see, there's nothing in it. We really need to put a solar panel on the top. We've only really turned this on and off when we use it. Because we've got a big fridge in our caravan, we don't feel the need to use this a lot, but we would if we had a solar panel on to trickle charge the battery. It'll run the battery down over maybe a few days, especially for running the Starlink inside here as well. We turn it off just so I don't have to worry about the battery and because we don't really need it, but it's good for day trips and stuff at the moment, but we will get that sorted so we can run that 24/7. We've got a very simple 12 volt setup, no inverter. We just got a few lights, a few 12 volt sockets. Yeah, you can see we've got quite a fair bit of space here. We've left the back really open. So I've got my bike in there at the moment. I can fit 2 bikes in here. We kept this really open because we wanted it to be adjustable. So if we wanted to put a boat engine in there, say, or just basically lug stuff around town if we needed to move something, it's just good to have that adjustable space in the back here. I've got a little spares box of all my spare parts and bits and bobs, so that's really good. We've also got these little side drawers. There's a twin ARB compressor in there. That's awesome. I love having the twinny. We used to have the single on our old rig. It was good, it was just slow. So this thing, just the output's so much better, and you know, we just got a few bits and pieces in there, little stools and stuff. So that air compressor, $700. Tally that onto the list. Move around the other side here. As you can see, we've got our tyre just mounted on the back there with a little bin bag. And then on this side, as you can see, we've kept it really simple. At the moment, we're storing our paddleboard and, you know, push bike helmet and all sorts of bits and pieces, snorkel. We've just got that on top of this RV Storage Solutions drawer. So this is an RV Premium alloy drawer. These guys have been around for ages, making really awesome drawers for 4-wheel drives, and Australian made. Like I said, it's all alley, nice and lightweight. It's also a big drawer, so you can see I've got a lot of my tools and stuff in here. A full toolkit, spares, pumps. I've got jacks and torque wrenches and everything. Big, you know, kit of just odds and ends. It's just nice to have your garage in the back of your car when you're traveling full time. Because that way, if we go 4-wheel driving or we're away from the van where we might have, you know, we might store parts or tools. If you need them when you've left the van, you know, you're up creek without a paddle. So it's nice having that stuff with us. Got some beautiful new Our Australia Trip patches. if you like the look of them, they're available now on the website. But these are limited edition, so we won't repeat these, but we'll be making different designs as we go, which I think is a really cool little thing to collect. We're going to start collecting them ourselves. We got another drawer over here, or like a, what do they call that? An under tray toolbox sort of thing. So we've got a saddle box. Thanks, Patsy. That's what it's called, saddle box. So yeah, that's really good. And we've got a 70-litre water tank fitted underneath this canopy too, which is essential, I think, for full-time traveling, to be able to have a water source that you can move around, have a shower when you get back from the beach, things like that. Wash the car down even if you've gone through some really salty water. It's nice to have that. So that's all under there. And we've got like a pump and everything at the back here. So it's pressurized. It's awesome. I love it. Like I said before, this canopy only weighs 222 kilos fitted to the chassis. So without the fridge and the drawer and stuff in there, it's really lightweight. It's probably the lightest in its class. And the reason why we can get it that light is because we're using the composite materials. It's bolting directly to the chassis, so we're eliminating the need for a tray or anything like that. It cost us $24,000 to fit out. So it's the canopy, the fridge cage, the drawer, everything in there, around $24,000, which is a lot of money, but it's also not a lot if you look at some of the other options of canopies and the weights of those canopies that are on the market. So the canopy is great. And like I said, we haven't got a 240 volt system in this canopy. We've just got a very basic 12 volt system. So it's a bit hard to see with me standing in the door here, but we've got a 110 amp hour McCormack's battery. So it's a lithium battery that is bolted to the back wall of the ute. So it sits behind the seat. It's out of the way there. And that powers the canopy. So it's got the charger and everything inbuilt into it. And that feeds our canopy with 12 volts. So all up, the 12 volt system cost us $47.50, and we don't have a solar panel yet, but yeah, we're working through that. Yeah, so that's really nice, having the power in the back there. And this is a dual cab, so we come from a single cab, and the single cab space is very limited. Those of you guys that travel in them, you know, there's no space. Patsy couldn't even put her bag down. It had to always be beside her feet because we just had no space in the cab. And that's where this dual cab has been so much nicer, because we just use this back seat for storage. I know it might be used for different things down the track, but for now, well, sometimes we won't have anything on the back seat, but it's just nice to have that little spot in the cab where you can put your bits and pieces. So at the moment, we've just got our Stratus outdoors, just sitting there in the footwell, like out of sight, out of mind. It's not taking up room in the canopy. So yeah, loving the dual cab for that reason. Okay, so one thing that really makes this Land Cruiser unique is that it's got a pre-rego J-Max 4.2 ton coil conversion. So what that really means is that it turns this rigid farm truck into a much more comfortable tourer. And doing all that stuff pre-rego just ensures compliance with all different states' regulations. So this actually is registered as a T-Bro Toyota Land Cruiser J7 rather than a Land Cruiser 79 series. So J-Max have done all the engineering around this to make it legal with a 3-inch lift, with 35-inch tires, and yeah, pretty much all the suspension changes. We do have a full build video when we put all the J-Max gear in this car, which was very comprehensive. And we showed a lot in that video with how much work goes into it. It pretty much strips all the suspension out of the car and replaces it with much better stuff. Not only does the J-Max kit, there's so much stuff involved in the kit, and we'll run through that in a second, but not only does it transform the way that the vehicle rides, but it's also greatly increasing its carrying capacities, like its axle loads, its GVM, all that sort of stuff. And I'll show you the placard here with what we've got, what weights we're working with nowadays. So here we have our little sticker. This is literally gold. This is why the J-Max kit costs so much, because it's all been engineered pre-rego. So we've got a 4.2 ton GVM. Our GCM is 7.7 tons. So that means we can tow 3.5 tons and have the vehicle still at full max GVM, so 4,200 kilos. And our rear axle weight is 2850. It also does include an upgrade on the front axle weight, so that's increased a little bit. So that's really good. It's a bit hard to see with the vehicle on the ground, but I've got shots and stuff of when we actually built the car, which is really cool because it looks nothing like that now. It's so dirty because we've got 10,000 Ks and 6 months of use onto it. But we've got the, like I said, 3-inch lift with the 35. So it's engineered to have a bigger lift and stand than what you're legally allowed if you did it post-rego. Like big tires, you can actually go up the 4-inch lift, which would just be massive. But yeah, so the kit includes like the brake booster in the engine bay, which we showed earlier. It includes the springs, the Alpha shocks, so they're an adjustable remote reservoir shock. They're awesome. We've got radius arms, we've got steering dampener from J-Max, sway bar blocks, braided brake lines. The list goes on. Like all this stuff is what they need to do to ensure that it's compliant with like engineering Australia-wide. Up the back here, we've got an widened diff. So the diff's not only increased in its carrying capacity, but it's also widened to meet the wheel track of the front. These 70 series, it's a terrible engineering flaw. The rear axle, if you buy it from the factory, is about 50 mil shorter or 100 mil shorter on the rear, which is just shocking if you're driving through sand, you know, the tail wags and it's no fun. Just stability wise, it just extends it out. So we've got that, like I said, the coil cradle. We've got shocks in the rear, the same Alpha adjustable shocks. The coils in the rear have got airbags, which are inside the coils there, which we can pump up and adjust our ride height in the rear, depending on how much weight we're carrying. The J-Max kit, it's been awesome. It's been flawless. I've absolutely loved driving this car. It's completely transformed. We drove around the country a few times in a leaf sprung cruiser. I could literally talk about the J-Max gear all day. As I said, we have the build video, so if you want to see how all that come together, I think it's fascinating. I sort of stripped it down and did it in layman's terms when we were in the workshop. We were very fortunate to be in the McCormack's workshop while the boys built this car. And yeah, it includes so much, even an exhaust, because they're changing all the rear suspension, the standard exhaust routing. You know, J-Max supply an exhaust that routes through their kit. So that's really good. There's so much that goes into that stuff and we're loving it. So all up, this is a really big one, and it's just something you have to do. If you're doing it pre-rego, you just do it once, do it right, bite the bullet. All up, $41,500. That includes, you know, labor, all the parts, engineering, everything's taken care of. So yeah, that's a big one, but something that we just had to do if we wanted to tow 3.5 tons and take all the toys with us that we want to. All right, tucked up under the back here, you can see we've got a big Long Ranger fuel tank. So that's a replacement fuel tank. It increases our fuel capacity by about 50 litres. So this is a 180 litre tank. So that's a big increase there. It replaces a factory 130 litre tank. They're made down in Newcastle. Awesome company, family owned company, an Australian business. So we love that. That's essential, having a big fuel capacity when you're touring around Australia. It's just, it gives you so much more peace of mind. So we've also got, you can see it's pretty dirty under the back here. That is for the reason that we've sprayed it with a lanolin steel seal sort of coating. So that's like a rust proofing sort of salt inhibiting coating. So everything looks a little bit ratty, but at least it's protected from the salt, because we will take this thing on beaches. It will be in terrible environments for steel. So we've done that. At the back here, we've got this big Heyman Reese tow bar. These things are pretty heavy. Oh, sorry, the fuel tank, that was about 1,500 bucks. The tow bar, it's about 1,700 bucks. We've got a Kurt Rebellion hitch here, which is an adjustable hitch with some dampening effect, and that's about 550. So there's a fair bit going on in the back here. We have our points here where we can adjust our airbags and like a safety Dave kit. So yeah, that's about all for the outside of the car. Let's go and have a look on the inside. Not really that much to see, it's pretty basic, but we did do a few things to make it a little bit nicer for ourselves. Okay, so inside the cab, the 2025 model Land Cruiser is actually, we've got some upgrades. We've got cruise control for a start. We've got a nicer interior with, I think it's a Hilux steering wheel. But yeah, it's pretty basic in here, but we did change a few things like this center console. So we put this nice big deep center console in here. Look how deep that thing is. Can fit my whole arm in there. Good for snacks, good for camera gear, good for lollipops. All the stuff's in there, so that's awesome. That's from Cruiser Consoles, and this is their half center console variant. So I've got a few cup holders, bits and pieces for radios. So that's been really good, and it also doubles as a like really ergonomic armrest. So I love that. That was $870. Here we've got our comms. We've got a GME UHF. So this is the 330C. This is a great little handheld UHF. It's got the speaker inbuilt in the front there, a nice little OLED screen. That's connected to two whips on the front. So we've got two different whips. One's a 2.1 decibel whip. That's a short range, sort of gives you a nice bubble. And that's the one we run primarily. But we've also got a long range whip. That's the big one. It looks cool, but it's also, say if we're in the outback and we didn't have any comms, that thing will shoot a direction. As long as there's not a lot of trees or hills and stuff around, that will shoot a signal so much further than the little whip. So that's why we've got the two different whips. It's just the little one's better in like mountainous, tree, you know, you're doing four-wheel drive tracks. It's good for close range stuff and, you know, dense bush and things like that. So that's really good. The 330C, that's $560 for this little unit, and it's hidden away like the actual brain box of the UHF, and the aerial, you can get that as a pack. That's $470 for the two aerials. So yeah, that's our comms. You can see here it's connected to this little TLR. This is the Long Ranger products. They make 3D printed stuff. They make like folded and pressed steel products, just accessories for cars. So we've mounted the handpiece to this little bizzo that they've made, which actually sits over the air vent. So it's just, I think it's just nice and neat looking. So I've also got down there on either side of the seat, we've got products from the TLR. We've got the fire extinguisher mount. So on that side, we've got fire extinguisher mounted there. And on this side, we've got a snake bite kit. It's just nice to have those safety items at hand. You know, you jump out of the car, you know exactly where your fire extinguisher is or your first aid kit. So that's really nice. All up, the TLR stuff, $180. And protecting the interior, we've got these canvas seat covers from the Canvas Seat Cover Company. We had canvas seat covers in our old rig and they fared really well. They were lighter in color, so they did show up the dirt, but we just liked how we could jump in the rig. We could be dirty, we could be sandy, we could be salty, we could be wet. It didn't matter. We weren't going to spoil the interior, so we had to get a set of these. These are about $800, but they just, you know, like they protect your interior so well. These ones look really nice. Like we've gone for the black this time, as you can see, so they don't show up like the dirt that you might drag into the car as badly, and it just makes the interior of the car feel a little bit more cozy. You know, accents, we got a black and grey accent in this interior, and I think, you know, choosing the black center console and choosing the black seat covers and with all the black accents on the dash, I think it really looks quite nice. So the canvas seat covers are on the back seats as well, so everything's all covered, and that's about $800 for these seat covers. We've also got coverings on the floor, so we changed out the factory floor mats to these mats. They are just a deep dish mat. I can't even remember where I got them from, but they're about $350, and they're just nice because they can hold a fair bit of water, they can hold a heap of mud, and underneath the floor mats right now, they clean up really nice too, but underneath the floor mats, you wouldn't, like the carpet looks brand new, and that wasn't the case in our old one. Like, you know, the dirt would shuffle, the sand would shuffle off the side of the mat, so these ones really protect the interior too. They're front and back also, so we've got the same sort of setup in the back for protection. And yeah, the only other thing really that we've done on the interior is this little Red Arc Tow Pro, so that just controls the electric brakes for our caravan. That is a noteworthy item because it is $700 for that little unit, so I thought I'd tack that onto the price. But everything else has really come out of our old rig. So we've got our screen for our rear vision camera, which is connected to the car camera, so that come out of our old rig. We've got our dash mat and organizer, you know, TPMS and scan gauge, but that's not included in the price because we had all that stuff and we just transferred it over from our old rig. So yeah, that's all the products tallied up. Now let's get to the grand total and some of our thoughts. Just a brief intermission. It's actually quite peaceful out here. How good's a canopy for a bit of cover? Who needs an awning? Oh, I was just talking about how these seats are waterproof. Left my window open, but underneath that it'd be dry as a bone. You can see the way it's just like pulled down, probably running into the floor mat in the back. And there's the floor mats catching all that water. Unintentional, but one thing that took us by surprise with this build, well, not by surprise, but it just seemed to stack up, was the cost of labor. And that's something that's unavoidable with any build. So most of this build, pretty much all of it, was completed by McCormack's there in Sandgate in Brisbane. And the reason for that being is that there's just a one-stop shop. They could put the canopy on, they could do the JMax stuff. They're an authorized retailer. They work with companies like ARB and GME, Nava, all that sort of stuff. So they can do, you know, a lot of your build, and also be an advisor on what sort of things would suit your car. And they're just a wealth of knowledge, and they guided us through this process of building this rig so much. So shout out to McCormack's, and if you're thinking about building a rig, definitely look into those guys. For this build, it is pretty hard to work out the labor costs. You know, the Just Auto stuff, it's included in their price. The JMax stuff, it's included in their price. All we know is there's around 3 weeks total, like 38-hour weeks, put into building this car. So for time frame wise and for budget wise, you can work that out around $150 an hour. Like, some mechanic workshops will be more expensive than that, and auto electricians are more expensive rates than $150 an hour, but it's a pretty good rate and an average to work out if you're thinking of building something and having, you know, a workshop do it. All right, so before we get into the total costs for this build, we thought we'd just disclose that some of the parts on this car were provided to us at a discounted rate, and any of the contra or brand deals that we have done with this build were made after we'd actually ordered the product. So we cherry picked and hand picked all the brands and suppliers and the products that we wanted to use on this build, but not everything is sponsored. So no, they're not freebies. No, we didn't get the car for free, but yes, there was some companies that we have worked with on this build that have provided us parts at a discounted rates for our advertising services. All right, probably the time we've all been waiting for. Let's tally up the costs. So the car itself, $89,500. That's excluding on-road costs. That's just basically the 79 series platform with no tray on the back, pretty much as it comes. Total mods, $104,125. So that's the price of all the mods and some labor, you know, with the JMax kit. Obviously that includes labor. Just Auto's kit, that includes labor. So with a little bit of extra labor put on, maybe an extra week's worth of labor at McCormack's, you're looking at $200,000 for this car, which is an absolute insane amount of money. And it's something that we had multiple panic attacks over the course of planning and building, and even right up to the point when we were picking it up, like just the amount of money that we were spending seemed crazy to us. And honestly, it was sitting in a cafe about to get the keys to this thing and thinking, oh, we should have just done a budget build, we should have cut corners, we could have saved heaps of money. And maybe that was just irrational thoughts, you know, after all this time and energy that we'd invested into this and money, like all coming together. Maybe it was just a bit overwhelming in the moment, but here we are now, 6 months on. I love this thing, and we wouldn't have it any other way. It's a complete animal. We haven't even really scratched the surface with what it can do. And no, you don't need to travel Australia in something like this. This is sort of, as crazy as it is to say, it's a middle of the road sort of thing, or on the higher end of the spectrum. You can build trucks that are much more expensive than this, or you can travel in a budget setup like we did for so many years. And honestly, if it wasn't for you guys watching, this wouldn't have become our life and our career and our lifestyle. And you know, this thing that we've built is our home and the longevity of our Australia trip. So for you guys supporting, thank you so much for that. It's, you know, if we weren't doing the traveling YouTube thing, we probably wouldn't own anything nearly as cool as this. So yeah, no, you don't need a $200,000 rig to travel around Australia. The best advice I can give is just make a plan, get out there and enjoy it and what you've got and see where it goes from there. That's what we've done. Started off in a little blue Yaris in a tent, so it's pretty cool to be standing here in front of our dream car. And yeah, with that being said, that's our walk around of our new 2025 V8 79 Series Land Cruiser, the unicorn, the white horse, you know, never to be repeated. We love it. And we've got another video coming up where we talk about some things that we could change. It's not perfect, and we will be making some changes and going through that in another video. So if you've got any questions about the rig, about what we've done and about anything that we've covered in this video, definitely leave a comment and we'll cover it in that video. Thanks for watching.